Hey everybody! Well, this week we are getting started on the excavation of the foundation for Villa number 3. Finally get some work done. Also, I have to do an emergency repair of an air conditioner, and we'll show you that too. So let's get straight to work and show you what's going on with Villa number 3 construction. We're Douglas and Esperanza, and we decided to leave our lives in the US and move to magical Loreto, Mexico, where we built our boutique resort Pufferfish Villas from the ground up and work running it and saving to expand in the future. Please come with us to follow our journey and live before you die. All right, we got all the lines laid out here. I still have the string up, but I am going to remove that. I'm just kind of waiting a little bit because if it dries up, then I won't get all orange all over me when I remove it. And this line here will actually be the outer perimeter. So we're going to try to dig down pretty much straight where this line is. And then the footer will go inside of this line, because this is the outside perimeter of the building. Notice I extended these out. Anywhere it's going to be outside of the dig area. That's so when I'm digging, I can still see where these lines are, get kind of a sight line down where they are. And so I've got it extended out at the corners also to help me when I dig. And then these lines are the center of the walls. So when I dig around these lines, I dig these as the center of the footer, and the hole should be centered on this footer because that's the way I measured it out and lined it out to the center of the walls. Before you start all this work, you need a compacted solid pad to put your footers into. And here where we are basically in sand. This was a sand dune. And in fact, there was a sand dune that ran right about through here. And then this was, so we were probably standing under sand in the natural kind of thing here. Then there was a gully between this sand dune and there was a second sand dune right about back where the oasis is. And so this is just pure sand. So you can't build a building on sand because the problem is the sand will erode out from underneath the building with wind or water, and your building then can tip and the entire building can start to tilt because the sand will erode out from under it. So what they do here is they take and they dig out about 3 feet deep out of the sand and make a hole 3 feet deep. And this was done here. Then they bring in this material, which is basically a road base. It's what they use to build the highways, to put under the highways. And it's a rock and dirt mix. It's very compactable. And they bring it in layers, about 6 inches thick a layer. And then they compacted it all with a big roller vibrating compactor. And I had them do this when we built these 2 villas. The architect suggested make 1 pad for all 4 villas. That does a couple things. One, it's a lot more stable because we have kind of a monolithic pad. And this pad is about 3.5 to 4 feet thick of compacted material. And we have a monolithic pad under all 4 villas that is very strong and very stable. And then the other thing it did is that you don't have to put in this pad when people are staying in the villas, because we knew this could possibly happen. And the other thing is you can actually cause damage. If you're running the big compactor that they had, the big roller compactor with a vibrating roller, like a steamroller, you would think of it. You're running it 4 feet away from this other building. You're risking shaking that building. I mean, when that thing goes, it's like an earthquake, and you're gonna shake the inside of this villa next to it very violently. So we didn't want to do that. Then you're risking damaging, having cracks in there, breaking windows, you know, having all kinds of things shift. It's not a good thing. So we wanted to avoid that. So we put in this pad when we put in the other 2 villas. So step 1 is already done. And we have a very solid, about 3.5 foot thick, compacted layer by layer. They wet it, then they compact it, then they bring in another layer, wet it down, compact it. And so it's basically like concrete. We're standing on like a 3.5 foot kind of primitive, you know, kind of like, think of it like a concrete block that was made under all these villas. So that also is going to make it very difficult to dig out these foundations by hand, because this stuff is very, very hard and compacted. It is kind of like a old concrete that you're trying to get through. One last thing to note, when we put in this pad, we kind of calculated how far the villas would be, and I was concerned because we were originally planning to build 2 more villas this exact same size. Well, these villas have grown by, I think, about 6 feet in length from front to back. And so I was worried that this pad would not be big enough. But luckily, it is barely just big enough for these villas. And it'll definitely be bigger enough for the 4th villa, because this property line here goes out that way towards the neighbor's property just a little bit. And that's why you see these villas, if you can see it, they're like stair-stepped. They go in and then they come out and they stair-step. That's because everything was squared to that property line, because this is like a piece of pie. This property is like a piece of pie. It's not square. And so we had to decide which property line we were going to square to, and because of the driveway and everything out there, we decided to square everything to that property line over on that side, which means this property line is coming out at an angle, and so each of the buildings sits back a little farther than the building next to it. And so you can see here, here's this building sits back again, because I wanted 3.5 feet from the building to the wall. And so this building sits back a little bit. And so now when we get over here to this side, to the wall, here's the wall, and then this is the fence, we're up to about 4.5 or 5 feet here. And so the next villa will sit back again to 3.5 feet in this corner when it gets built. And that will pull it back from this front edge, so I don't have to worry about it being over the front edge. This is really close, but it's still going to be perfect, because you're really worried about having that solid ground underneath the footer, and we're going to have that. And you can see here right where this is the fill material here, and then this is just the regular ground, which this is technically fill material also. This is about 3 feet of fill material, but this material was never compacted. It has been sitting here for 15 years, and this was actually under the rest of that fill material at about that level. So this probably is super compacted also, but this is not the same quality of fill material, and it never was actually compacted in the levels and everything else, where this fill material was all set up to build on. Good morning, everybody. Well, I am out here to get started on some Villa 3 work, because we don't have any guests here this morning. But before I get started, I have to go into Villa 2 here and start up the air conditioner. And the reason being is because when our cleaners came in here to flip this villa yesterday, let me turn on the light. Here we go. The air conditioner was leaking. Now, this is a problem with mini splits that you get a lot of times. They leak, and a lot of times it's hard to figure out why they're leaking. Could be a drain is plugged, could be that there's a pipe that takes the lines up to the roof, in this case, and it could be that line is condensing inside that line and then it's draining back down. So it drained out of the head unit of the corner up here. It drained down the back of this headboard into the platform for the bed. It actually got the corner of the mattress wet on the bottom side. And so we had to take the cover off the mattress, dry it out. And as you can see, our mattresses are like brand new. They have never not had a cover on them. In fact, this is probably the longest overnight this thing has sat without a cover on it. And we do a cover. Now the covers aren't 100% waterproof, especially if it's sitting in a puddle of water for days and days and days when we had guests here. So that's why it got a little bit damp. It didn't get really wet, just a little damp on that corner. In fact, that corner, we rotated it down here and it is totally dry now. I don't feel anything. So that's why we left the villa. I told the cleaners, just leave all the stuff here. We'll remake the bed after I get this fixed. So to figure out where this leak is coming from, I need to get it to happen again. So I'm going to turn the AC in here. It's probably going to take an hour or two for the leak to start happening again. So we will just leave this in here running under the same conditions it was running when the guests were here. And then I'll come back in a couple hours and we will see how this is working and figure out where the leak is. So now I will get back to work outside. Let's go and get some stuff done. One last thing on the air conditioner. I pulled the filters because it is possible for a leak like that to happen because the filters are dirty. Now these filters are dirty, but they're not super dirty like this should cause a leak like that, I think. But we'll find out really quick because we're running it with no filters in now. So there's no restriction to the airflow whatsoever. And that doesn't hurt it at all. It isn't going to filter any air, but it doesn't hurt it at all. And it gives it full airflow. So if that was a problem, it should not leak anymore with those filters out. And then when I get done doing the digging today, I will go back and clean the filters in both those units and we'll see if it's leaking. Well, I'm out here for the first day of breaking ground here in Villa 3. And I'm getting started today because we don't have any guests this morning. Our guests checked out yesterday. I've got 2 mornings. This is Friday and Saturday. I've got 2 mornings to work out here. I can't really work in the afternoon because the sun comes up over there and it's blocked from my work site here for probably till about 8 or 9 in the morning. And so that gives me a window that I can work out here when I'm not in the direct sun. It's still in the high 90s every day, and in the high 90s with the direct sun and maybe 70% humidity, I just can't do heavy work for very long in the sun. So I take advantage of the early mornings here. I'm going to attempt at first to dig this with a shovel, but I do not think that is going to work, and I've got some other tricks up my sleeve. Now, before I get started, I'm going to show you something that's probably going to make you say, this guy's crazy. So I have been offered by my buddy Lennon, who has a job site, right next door here on the other side of the wall to use his mini, excavator whenever I need it. And let me show you it here. So that right there is Lennon's mini excavator. So why am I going to turn him down? Every time I borrow something expensive, I have had very bad luck. And I have borrowed some expensive stuff, and then it breaks when I have it, and then it costs me a lot of money. I've done this a couple times. I borrowed a brush cutter from a friend of mine, and the brush cutter hit a rock, and then it bent the shaft. Ended up being over $200 to fix a brush cutter, and I could have bought a brand new brush cutter for $400 in the beginning, and I'd have a brush cutter forever. So I basically paid like $240 to borrow a brush cutter for like 2 hours because I ended up having to pay to fix it. This has happened other times when I've borrowed expensive equipment and then it breaks when I have it, and I'm not gonna return it to someone broken because that's happened to me. I've lent stuff out that was expensive, thousands of dollars to people, and they returned it destroyed, and I had to throw it away. So I just decided I don't borrow anything anymore that's expensive. If I need it, I'll buy it or rent it, or I'll pay somebody to come do the work. Thank you so much, Lennon, for the offer, but I'm gonna turn you down this time, buddy. I'm gonna get to work by hand. So here's the plan of the foundation plan, and we're interested in this here. So this is the structural cement plan, and this is the details of the footer around the side right here, and this is the details of the interior wall footers. And so this is what we're going to start with, the exterior wall footer, and we are going to dig out to these dimensions all the way around the perimeter. Now this is all in meters. I love doing meters more than inches because they make way more sense. Luckily I have a Mexican Trooper tape that has meters and inches in it. I guess that's upside down, isn't it? So it's got meters and inches, so I can measure this footer out. So let's lay out the basic footer here, and then we'll start to try to dig by hand and see what happens. All right, so I got this footer started, and I did this little section right here because this was already dug out because of that vault that's there. But I'm glad I just did a little section because I realized as I was finishing this that I made a mistake. And it's not a horrible mistake like now I have to start over. This footer is just a little deeper than I needed. And I'll show you why. I was looking at this plan, and I was looking at 20-10, so 30 centimeters to the top of the slab, and 20, but so I was seeing 30 centimeters, and I thought, well, from the ground level here, I need to go down 30 centimeters, which is what I did. But I didn't think about this, but this is actually 20 centimeters below grade and 10 centimeters above grade where the slab is going to be. So the slab is going to be 10 centimeters thick, which is 4 inches. And this needs to be 8 inches below that, not, so 20 centimeters below that, not 30 centimeters, which is 12 inches. So this footer is too deep. So that's okay. I'm glad I did this little section to start out with. I'm always gonna make mistakes. I'm starting this from scratch. So another good thing is that this shovel is actually 20 centimeters by 30 centimeters. The square shovel. So they probably did that on purpose. Who knows? But anyways, this shovel is a perfect measuring device because the bottom of the footer needs to be just 1 shovel width wide, and then it needs to be 1 shovel edge deep, 20 centimeters deep from grade. So now I will continue. Now I'm already thinking I'm going to have to pull out the big guns over here because this is really hard. And this was soft because it's next to the vault, and it's already been dug up once and then it was put back in there. This has never been disturbed, and it's not going to be soft like the rest of this ground. And it's already, that's about, I mean, this is the only amount that's really not super tight packed. And to get any deeper than that, I think I'm gonna have to pull out the big guns here. So I'm gonna do that right now. All right, say hello to my little friend. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that this is my Harbor Freight jackhammer. Now, I originally bought this thing when I lived in California. I used it to basically break up a slab foundation, to put in a bunch of plumbing and wiring. And I've used it down here. You've seen it many times on the channel, using it to take down the wall for the driveway gate, do all kinds of stuff. This has been one of the best purchases I've ever made from Harbor Freight. About half price of a name brand demolition hammer, and it is lasted so far many, many years and many, many projects. Eventually, someday it's going to die, but who knows? It might last through the whole construction of the rest of Pufferfish Villas and my house. So yeah, I may get awesome amount of use from it. So let's get this thing going. Oh, I went and bought a new bit for it. So I got a new spade bit so that I could dig with it. Now, in reality, I really could have a bigger one. This one is going to get really horrible because I have to lean over to dig in the ground with it. And if I had a bigger one, I could stand up straight, which makes it much, much easier. But the big ones are very expensive. Name brand, about 2,000 bucks. Even a Chinese knockoff or Chinese brand, which is about like Harbor Freight quality or less, you're still like 800, 700, 800 bucks for a big upright demolition hammer. So we're going to see what we can make do with this one, and let's see if it can break this up so make it easier to dig. All right, I am making good progress here with the footer for this wall. I'm up to the center wall in here. And you can see, let me put you down here in the ditch. So it's squared off on this side, and then it has a 45-degree angle on this side coming up. And then there'll be a 4-inch slab, 20-centimeter slab on top of this flat section here. Now, is a lot of work. I am pretty hot and sweaty. 8:31. But my shade is going away quickly. You can see over there, it's already starting to get inside the building perimeter. So I'm going to continue on. The jackhammer, the demolition hammer. Oh man, that just kills my back. Because you got to lean over. The thing weighs about 40, 50 pounds. You got to lean over, put it in the ground. It goes in really easy. Then you got to pull 50 pounds back up, do the next hole, and the entire time you're leaning over. So it is very, very tough on the back. But to dig this out without doing the jackhammer first would be way, way worse. All right, I am about done for today. The sun's getting pretty close. And for my first day of digging, I'm pretty worn out. But footer is looking pretty good. A little bit of a bend in it, but that's okay because it just got a little bit outside of the line. So when I build my forms, that'll just get a little bit of concrete outside of the form. Isn't gonna hurt anything, just cost me more money because I have to use more concrete. So it is about 9 o'clock. I've been working on this about little over 2 hours and I made it that far. 2/3 of the way on one side. I don't want to go overboard and end up injuring my back and being out of it for 6 months. So we'll take it easy. We'll do just a little bit each day. So I'm gonna try to get out here tomorrow morning too because we have no guests and see what I can get done tomorrow. All right, I am here. I have disassembled the whole outer covering of the mini split. So you can see this little stream of water here coming down, and it's coming down exactly. This is the drain hose. This is where the drain hose connects up to the pan. So this is the coil. The coil gets water that condenses on it. It goes into this little pan here, probably even water down in there, and then it collects, comes out this drain, and it goes into the wall. All right, so this looks like a combination of a design flaw with the drainage system and probably just use. So this is the drain tube. You can see it's dripping stuff out. There is a hole in the wall. This is the tube that went from the drain tube to the hole in the wall. And the problem is that this pipe is not sloped down. That is a design flaw. It goes straight back into the wall and then probably has a 90 on it that goes downward. So that means that it can pool up water here, right in the flat section of the pipe, and then that water can drain back out and come down the wall. I think I have a solution for the leak to fix it, and I think it will fix it permanently. I'm going to use something that I learned when doing pool fittings, which are under a massive amount of pressure. So this should be easy because this is under no pressure. It's just draining water. All right, so I am going to need to let this totally dry out before I can do my fix because I'm going to do a double sealer type fix. So here's a pipe that was in there that hooks up on this end to the AC. This end goes into the wall. And because it just went into the wall straight in like this, it was seeping down past it here. So the first line of defense is I found an O-ring that is a very tight fit onto this tube. And I took off the black electrical tape on there because that's just not going to make it, that's going to make it not seal good. So got down to the plastic tube, found an O-ring that fits it pretty tight, and it fits tight inside of the 3/4 inch PVC pipe that's in the wall. So this alone would probably be enough to fix that with a little bit of, if you were just going to use this by itself, I would put what they call magic lube, which is a lubrication made for O-rings and things like that. Use it in all the pool equipment because you have a lot of O-rings in your pool equipment, the pump and stuff, and you use that lubrication in there. But that also could leak past this gasket at some point. So for a better, stronger, and more permanent fix, if I let this dry out, I am going to then cover this all with silicone, get silicone underneath this O-ring. I'm going to cover this entire tube with silicone, and then I'm going to put it into the wall, into the PVC pipe there. That should form an impenetrable seal because I'm going to have the gasket, which is going to be tight. It's going to be siliconed in and siliconed to this, and then this pipe is going to be siliconed. So I believe that will form a seal that will totally fix this, and I will never have this problem again. All right, I'm back in here this morning to get this air conditioner finished. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut out some of this plastic right here so that I have better access to the hole that's in back of it. And this won't affect anything. There's a screw hole here where the outer cover screws on. So as long as I leave that, I should be fine. I've got some tin snips here that I think will make short thing of this plastic. There, now I have much easier access to that hole and didn't harm anything in the air conditioner. I got a bunch of silicone on here all around that gasket and around the length of this. And then we're going to see how this works. Now hopefully the silicone will lubricate that. There it goes. All right. That's gonna come up right here. A little latch there that latches it on. And we should be good. So with that gasket and the silicone in there, I'm hoping that won't leak anymore. I cleaned the filters so that they are all clean. We like to clean those about once every 2 weeks when they're being used. So see, nice and beautiful clean. Clean this one too at the same time since they need to be done every couple weeks when they're being used a lot. So that is all ready to go back together. Let's get it back together and then we'll test it and see if it's working. I got this all back together, all cleaned up, looks super nice, and it's ready to go. Let's see if it still works. After I tore it apart and put it all back together. 24. It is blowing cold air already. My head feels really good right here. And it always worked and blew cold air. Now we have to see, can it blow cold air without leaking a bunch of water down through here also. So we will do that and I'll get back to you after a couple hours. All right, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe because you don't want to miss the rest of the build of Villa 3. We've got lots of more episodes coming. It's going to take a long time to build this thing because I'm doing it all myself. So definitely hit the subscribe button and never forget to live before you die.